Like you'll have prophets who are more about what they say. They're overly clear because they don't want you to misconstrue what's said. And there's no shepherd to come and be like, "Oh, come here, baby.
Yeah.
Let me come on. I know. We're gonna come out of that now. Because the pastor's like, we're gonna come out of that. But
look, they was right,
but come on,
they was wrong.
And while the prophet says you need to come out, the pastor says, "Come on, let me show you." To the Unchurched podcast.
It's the what?
It's the Unchurched podcast.
One more time.
The Unchurched podcast.
The Unchurched podcast.
The Unchurched podcast. My name is Cole Jones, and I'm joined here today by my co-host, Mr. Antonio Andrews.
What's up? A very cold co-host. So,
you cold?
So this is the thing, right? Yeah, I think I'm anemic.
Really?
But the doctors tell me I'm not.
Okay.
And that's crazy to me. I'm literally always cold. My fingers are cold. My feet are cold. I have a heater in my office.
Really?
Yes, a heater and a fan.
It's been 100 degrees for the last 2 months.
And I would turn on my heater in the morning. But by noon, my fan is on. Okay. But yeah, like I'm just freezing. So if y'all don't know, well, I know y'all see it, but most of the time I have on this blanket is because like I'm just cold. And it's not cold in here.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like a little cold.
Okay.
Actually, me and Aaron went to Cabo last night. And we had to sit outside because of how cold it was. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, that ain't my problem. I wake up sweating.
Look, but I told you I keep my house on like 75. Like
you might be.
Like right now, I think my AC, it's set on 75.
Yeah, you might.
And it's chilly.
No way.
Come over. It's cold.
No way.
It be now. At nighttime, I do like to drop it to like 74, but because of my grandma, I just put on my ceiling fan on low though. Mm-hmm. It'd be on the third one. Like number one is always too much. The medium one is good, but then when I'm going to sleep, I gotta think about, as you know, my voice is already raspy, so I'm gonna wake up sounding like, here comes the brakes, break it up. Like I ain't got time for that. Not being able to talk and not talk too much. That just don't go. That's not my ministry.
Huh. Okay.
That was a lot in like 1 minute.
That was a lot.
But yeah, a very cold co-host.
Okay.
A cold.
Cold is not cold.
I know. But okay.
But a cold co-host.
A cold co-host.
Yeah. Okay.
How are you, brother?
I'm doing just fine today.
You like Boys to Men? Is that Boys to Men? Just fine?
I don't know.
Okay. It's like, I'm doing just fine.
Really and truly, if it's not, let it snow. Or Mama.
Okay, I got you.
I don't know.
Yeah. But sorry, how are you? Will you answer that?
I'm good.
Okay. Today.
We're going to have this conversation that we have alluded to on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
And I think we have been talking around this conversation. I think it is well in time for us to talk
dwelling
about
in
it.
This place.
Yes. This
is it's heavy laden.
But no, we've been talking around this topic for several weeks. And I think that we just need to go ahead and have the conversation. And I want to ask the question, what is my place in the church?
What is my place in the church?
And I think it's kind of spurred from, this idea that everybody thinks that if you are significant in the church, you got a pastor. Mm-hmm. And if you're not the pastor, you need to play. Mm-hmm. And if you can't play, you need to sing. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do one of those three things, you're not significant in the church. And I couldn't say that couldn't be further from the truth. Mm-hmm. And so I want to talk through what the Bible says about it, but I also want to talk about culturally. Why are we this way?
Hold on real quick. Y'all, this episode is not to be confused with the episode that we did about what do we bring to the church.
Yeah.
So I don't want y'all to click out. Y'all hold on. We finna have a different conversation. It sounds the same because in my head I'm thinking like, we talked about this and I was gonna stop you, but then as you kept going, I'm like, It's different.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be different. It's gonna be a completely different conversation. So, growing up in the church, what was your perception of who was important?
So, who was important? Growing up in like missionary Baptist church, I'm gonna be honest, like, or at least in my church background context, that was a lot. I guess context and background, I could have entered out one of them. But in my church background, like, we didn't have prophets, we didn't have we maybe had evangelists, but like they weren't, like, I feel like in like the Kojic church, it's like evangelists, prophetess. It's like, no, like,
such and such.
It was just the pastor, the associate pastor, the associate ministers, and that was it. The minister of music. So, like, for me, the list of who was important was a lot smaller than a lot of other churches. So, growing up, honestly, I thought the most important person was the main pastor, which is Reverend John E. King Jr. Catch us at Trinity Baptist, you know. But yeah, like, I really just thought that it was the pastor. As I grew, I recognized that there were other ministers. But even when I was little, I didn't really think about the other ministers. Small tangent. And what was crazy was when people started becoming ministers at my church. That blew my mind.
You didn't know these people could become a minister?
No, I'm like, oh my goodness. One of the biggest examples is OMG. It was two examples. So it was one of my Sunday school teachers, Reverend Looney. So her husband was an associate minister.
Okay.
So she was my Sunday school teacher. And then, like, one Sunday, she just got up, and then, like, our head lead pastor was talking about, like, she's been called, and then she started praying. I'm like,
wait a minute, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I think also too, I guess I never thought it out of, like, people being called at different stages of their lives.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're older. I thought if you would have been called, you would have been called
young.
But then, yeah, called young. But then I also think about their context. They're older. She's a woman. But
and a women in ministry in the Baptist church.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with Reverend Wright. She was married to a deacon who was like one of my granddaddy's best friends, Deacon Wright. And so when she was, I was like,
yeah.
And, like, honestly, I thought she was older than what she is because her hair has been gray for a long time. So I'm like, girl, like, in my head as a child, I'm like, oh, you in your 80s? Because, like, my great grandma had gray hair. My grandma didn't. She still don't got gray hair, which is crazy. But I always equate gray hair with just, like, age, especially as a child. Something like, you in your 80s and you just now getting called, like, huh? So I was so confused. But I said all that to say, I really only felt like the lead pastor was important, at least in my background. Okay. What about you?
Well, so at our church, I always thought that the musicians were important because our church had huge choirs.
Yeah.
And our church used to, like, go on tour every Sunday. Like, and so I always knew that leading the music department was important. I knew that the pastor was important, but I always kind of held all the ministers in my mind. Like, being on the pulpit, that was like a big deal.
Yeah.
I think outside of that, I think because I grew up so, like, my parents were always in leadership most of my life.
Yeah, same.
So, like, I knew, like, I realized there were tiers to it. Like, my dad was a deacon and a trustee. My mom was an department head for most of my lifetime. And so, like, I knew that was important. But I always looked at it, I'm like, okay, man, if I could just preach or play, and look at me preaching and playing.
Right. Come on.
But, like, I always remembered and thought, like, I thought as a kid, like, man, that's what it is in the church. As I've gotten older, I've realized it's all just a gift.
Yes.
And pastoring is important because being without a covering is scary stuff. And I have to talk about that another day, but it's scary stuff. But not only being without a covering is scary stuff, like, everybody is important in the body because nothing works. It doesn't work well if you don't have every piece.
I need to slow down on this.
What's wrong?
It's like my face is kind of numb, and, like, I feel like I could, like, jump through the roof. I'm gonna take one more sip though.
Oh, Mind y'all, this is not beer. This is coffee.
Oh yes, and it's some good coffee, some good cold brew.
Yeah.
Oh
It's delicious
Lord,
stuff.
it is.
It goes down.
It just sent the chill through my body though.
Oh yikes! You're gonna be running laps around.
Right. You gonna think of the Holy Spirit then overtook me.
Yeah.
But not to cut you off, but one part that I did think was important, and I just think it was because of my context. My granddad was a deacon.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the deacons were important too.
Yeah.
It was like the pastor and the deacons. Like
every church, I feel
like I always feel like the deacons were like the goons of the church.
Uh-huh.
And growing up, we had the coolest deacons ever.
Okay.
Like your dad is a deacon too, so I feel like you can relate. But like all of my granddaddy and his deacon friends were just cool. Yeah. Like my granddad was cool to me. So like Deacon Wright, like did I mention he? Like all of them had gold chains. Like it was just super cool. Like Deacon Wright got like a gold tooth. Yeah, it's like, oh, you're a player. Yeah. And he used to have like a little part too. There was another deacon, rest his soul, Deacon Hill. That was my granddaddy's ace boom coon. He was an old sheriff, so he had like a gun collection. Yeah. So we would go over to his house. I'm like, this deacon loaded up, like. But I thought the deacons were like super cool. As a child, I wanted to be a deacon. Would I want to be one now? No.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see. But the thing. So I know for one, I used to think all the deacons had their lives together.
Yes.
Like they drove nice cars, they had nice houses, like
paid.
Right. I always felt like I was like the deacons. They figured it out.
Yes.
But I think one thing that I think often goes lacking, or that people forget about, especially like young people coming up in church, trying to quote unquote climb the ranks, which I think is dangerous. Everybody's not called to be the pastor.
Yes.
Like.
Yes.
And just because you hear from God doesn't mean that He's calling you to pastor.
Yes. And
I think a lot of people and a lot of churches have been hurt because we have people who have been called to evangelize. Let's think about that. An evangelist is called to share the gospel, just the gospel story, and to get people saved. That's their calling, is to take the gospel, therefore get people saved. They are not gifted to teach. They're not gifted to shepherd. They're not gifted to train. They're not gifted to see and prophesy. Half the time they might be gifted to sing, but that's not the evangelist office. Doesn't do that. And so you got people who, because they have the ability to grab a crowd and bring the people in, they now have a big church for a moment. And so they're like, well, I got the ability, I got a big following, let me go pastor. And you were called to take the gospel, but you weren't called to train the sheep. And I think it's really dangerous. I think that's one of the reasons we see so many small churches and not as many big churches.
Okay, no, I could definitely agree with that. Honestly, it's a particular pastor that popped up in my mind that shall remain nameless. But also, I do want to emphasize, it's not that an evangelist can't do those things.
Right. It's just the office of the evangelist.
Yeah, it's just like the job description.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm the principal, that doesn't mean I can't be a teacher. That's just not in my job description.
But I even want to push that.
Okay.
And I only want to push it because I think that there are a lot of people who think because I can preach, not me, like the metaphorical me. Because I can preach, that must mean I need the pastor.
No.
And so I'm not saying that people can't be gifted to evangelize and to pastor. It is that if you are called to preach or to prophesy or to evangelize, it doesn't automatically move you into the position of pastor.
Yes. No, I was just going to say, I that's really important. And I think that's a conversation that we've been having. So just to be transparent, guys, like a little while ago, I started feeling nudged to like enter into ministry. The conversation that Cole and I have had, as well as I've had with like other, like I would say like people that I value or I see. Let me not say that. people that are spiritually mature more spiritually mature than me, that I respect their opinions on stuff. So like Cole, my uncle, my best friend Jamal, my uncle Stephon, shout out to him. Y'all saw him a few other podcasts ago. But where we've all had this conversation of like, okay, AJ, just because you feel nudged does not mean that it equals this.
Yeah.
So like you need to go back and pray. And granted, I ain't never wanted to be no pastor, so you ain't gotta worry about that. And I was like, that ain't it. But that is a conversation that does need to be had, because I think when people feel called to ministry, they feel like they have to preach. They feel like they have to do this, they have to do that. When God may be calling you to something smaller, and that small thing could really could fulfill the ministry in itself. So like those ministers that I mentioned, Reverend Johnny Wright, Reverend Looney, yes, they were called to ministry, but like their role in the bigger picture of the church is important. It's important. So if they decide, okay, I'm called to ministry, I'm about to leave this church and go start my own church, then the actual ministry would be missing a component that should not be missing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I want to play devil's advocate. I think a lot of people because a lot of people get called through dream. I didn't get called through a dream. They get called through a dream, and because culturally, people assume that a call to ministry equals pastoring, that they look at people who are not pastoring as a lesser minister.
That's true.
I can't tell you how many people in the last 5 years have said, "I'm waiting on you to start a church."
I said it. Yeah.
And I pioneered ministries in Auburn, and I guess I have the knowledge of knowing what comes with pioneering a ministry, and so I'm not eager to go into that. But I've had so many people say, "Well, you're gifted. You're so gifted," and I even believe God has a pastoral call on my life. But I think it's really dangerous, not to fulfill what you're called to right now.
Yes.
But I also think it's dangerous to hop in an area where you're not formed yet to fulfill. Because one of my biggest fears is having the blood of the sheep on my hands, because I'm not healed or I'm not mature enough to handle what they have going on. And so I just want to talk through today. So like we talked about the evangelist. The evangelist's job is to draw. But you also have prophets. And I think a lot of us think that prophets' jobs. What do you think a prophet does?
Child, they be telling the future, child. They like the holy. Okay, I don't want to say this and like confuse people or lead people to HELL, but I feel like they're like the Jesus version of like the psychics, or at least that's what I've seen. Like whenever I've seen a prophet, it's like you telling the future, and a prophet came and prophesied to me. It was low key like about the future, and it was true. So I feel like he kind of like a psychic.
So the office of the prophet, really, it's kind of twofold. Part of it is they're supposed to declare truth.
Okay.
So when it says my sons and daughters will prophesy, to declare truth.
Okay.
Just be God's mouthpiece. But when we start thinking about the office of the prophet versus the act of prophecy, office of the prophet, they have the ability to see in the heavenly realm and say what God has said about it. And so when the prophet is operating, their job or their ability is to be able to see, like we got a young lady here who I believe she sees, and so she'll be praying for somebody, and the Lord starts showing her what's going on in the spirit realm around that person.
That's scary.
I'm kind of with my little sister Erin. We call my grandmama Jesus' best friend.
Y'all grandma's a prophet.
Look. we call her Jesus' best friend because you be doing something you ain't got no business with. Here come the phone. You're on my spirit. I just feel led to pray for you. Can I pray for you? And you be like,
I can confirm because there have been a few times where Aaron and I have been out doing some week other reasons, and then y'all grandma, she's like, I ain't finna answer that. Baby, because yes.
She's got the ability to see.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to confuse that, because when we start looking at the office of the apostle and the office of the pastor, sometimes God will give vision and they give the pastor or the apostle the ability to see specific things, but the prophet that's like their office. That's what they do. And so anytime you invite a prophet to come preach, you ever notice most of the time they don't preach long. A lot of times they'll preach 5 minutes because their job is not to preach. They preach 5 minutes, they release a word, and then they usually start praying for people and telling them what they said. I used to have the biggest problem with that. I'm like, you unprepared, you didn't study, you didn't come here, you came in here, you doing all these theatrics in the place. And when I got a better understanding that the office of the prophet, like, he's not a preacher, he's not a teacher.
Can I give a definition?
Sure.
So I got a few different definitions. So the first one that just pops up on Google, it says prophet, number one, a person regarded as an inspired teacher or proclaimer of the will of God. So somebody that speaks truth.
Yeah.
The Cambridge definition is a prophet is a person who speaks for God. Nah, they done added some extra mess in here. Speaks for God or a person who tells what will happen in the future.
Let me pull up the Bible dictionary. Because sometimes I feel like Google does not have the Holy Ghost.
Not Google don't got the Holy. Look, they say AI child. You never know. I can't lie though. Google low key is my best friend. I just Google all day, and I really have to clear out my tabs very frequently. Like right now, I have 176 open tabs.
Really?
Yes.
No, that's a lot.
And then I'll get up to 500 because that's the max. I don't know if you knew that. But 500 is the max.
I didn't know that there was a max.
Yeah, you can't go over 500. So if you got 500 tabs, you can't open up a new one. And then I'll go back through and I'll clear them out. I'll get down to like 100.
100?
Yeah, because it's like stuff I have that I was looking at. Like I may have some jewelry I was looking at, or I may have a piece of clothing, or when I was car shopping, I had cars. And it's like, okay, I want to keep these because I may come back and look at this. You got that pulled up?
Okay. Although the word prophecy often evokes images of people who predict the future, Hebrew prophets primarily anticipated the punishment of evil or a better life on earth for faithful Israelites. New Testament, that would be the church. They spoke the truth about the present and what would happen if people did not change their behavior and return to Yahweh's ways. When Hebrew prophets did focus on the future, they were usually concerned with the short-term future. For example, they predicted the fall of Israel or Judah or the end of the Babylonian or Assyrian empires, events that ultimately fulfilled God's will. Basically, they could see. And they could see specific events, things that were specifically in, like that were gonna if you miss this, it could cause you to stumble, or if you held on long enough, you'll see God's glory. Things that would be pivotal.
Yeah,
help you confirm what you've been praying on. So the office of the prophet, I remember this. It was probably about a month ago. She was prophesying to people, and I mean, she was telling folks all their business. And I was sitting there looking like, and this is how I know that the devil is real, right? You know how that envy thing start rising up in you?
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do that. And I got in the truck, and the Holy Ghost said, I didn't call you to do that.
Yeah, right.
Why?
He's like, of course you can't do that, Cole.
I didn't call you to do that.
Yeah.
That's not your gift. That's not your lane. And I just really had to sit in the fact that everything is necessary.
Yes.
It's all necessary. Because here's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of a church. Like, when we look over the landscape of churches in America, there are a whole lot of churches that are super charismatic, house full of prophets. They all in the spirit realm, but don't nobody know the word. Because there's no teaching happening. And everybody over here slain in the spirit, but how you slain in the spirit and know what spirit it is, how you testing the spirit to see if it's true, you don't know the word.
Okay, so can I say something?
Yeah.
I hope don't nobody. Okay. I'll try to figure out how to word this. Oh, geez. Oh, I feel shy. But anyways, there was a particular church like that. And I remember talking to my best friend, Jamal. I'm like, this is me just being stupid. I'm gonna be honest, y'all. Sometimes, honestly, if y'all don't know by now, I have a very stupid sense of humor. Like, it's very dark and dry and sarcastic, but like I feel like I'm kind of funny. But I'm like, if he's telling everybody what they need to do and they actually doing it, why they keep like you shouldn't have to go back. And so now having this conversation is like, oh my goodness, because you probably shouldn't be a pastor. We might have to cut this out, Cole, because
no.
Oh no, you gonna get me attacked and
well, I don't. Well, let me clarify.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm gonna clarify. The purpose of this podcast is to talk about what nobody else is talking about. Yes. Because the people who are leaving church or have a problem with church have questions and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
I think it also serves for a lot of church because I think we've got some people who love the Lord who comment. I
love the Lord.
And I won't take it back.
Hey.
But there's a lot of people who watch who are preachers, pastors, love the Lord, just church members.
Yeah.
And I think that if nobody ever says it, and I feel like that's my ministry sometimes, that somebody's got to say it because everybody's talking about it behind closed doors. But if we never talk about it in the open, how are we gonna get healed from it?
Well, look, I said it. Well, it's a reality star. Her name is Dr. Heavenly. She's a dentist. She's on Married to Medicine, and she always say she got a real squeaky voice. It's high. She say, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna say this and I'm not gonna take it back. Actually, I would add more to it before I take it back. But yeah, I remember having that conversation some years ago. I'm like, I don't know, because even being there, it feels unbalanced. And whenever you are in a space where you have somebody that's so Cole introduced me to this thought process or this theory about the fivefold ministry.
Which is what we're trying to talk about tonight.
Yep. Yeah. Which is what we're talking about tonight. But like, I had never heard that prior to some of our conversations. But the perfect ministry is fivefold. You have these different five gifts operating together, and it leads people back to Christ. And I think that when you are in those spaces where some of them folds are missing, sometimes all four,
it's just one fold.
And it's just one fold, it feels imbalanced. And you get
and so like here's my theory. Let me share my theory and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
So here's my theory. For early 2000s, maybe mid tens, it was just everybody was bragging about being in the fivefold ministry. I operate in all five of the fivefold ministry. And I'm in the fivefold ministry: evangelism, pastor, teacher, prophecy, apostle.
Wait, evangelism, pastor, teacher, those are two different ones?
It's technically one, but that's how they got five.
Okay.
Because when you look at the way that it's written, it's technically one, but they call it all five. So we'll say five. Pastor, teacher.
So the fourfold ministry?
Yeah, but they call it the fivefold ministry.
But you know what? I'll give it to them.
Yeah. It's some people
your pastor should teach, but I feel like a pastor is like a
shepherd.
Yes. More than it is a teacher.
Yeah.
Should your teacher teach?
Should your shepherd teach?
Yes. Should your shepherd know the word so that they can lead you? Yes. But I do think it's something about having like that nurturer.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you may have a teacher that is not really that nurturing, like nothing. Yeah, like, okay, I can teach you the word, but like maybe I don't want to come by your house every single, like, don't call me in the middle of the night because.
Well, okay, so I'm not that person. But and if I can,
I might stop by the hospital though.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I might, because I'm not a pastor or a teacher. That ain't me. Sorry.
Well, if I can just be transparent, I operate very heavily in a teaching gift. Very, like, I don't have to ask the question whether I'm called to teach or preach. Don't have to ask it. But when we look at the Bible, it says pastor, teacher. I care about people's progress in that vein as far as pastor. But like actually like having the patience with people when you tell them what to do and they don't do it.
Oh Lord.
Like it's a growth place for me. Having the patience with people after I'd explained it 10 times and they still don't get it. it's a growth place for me. It's a thing that I'm actively praying through, and I've come a long way.
Yeah,
but it's a prayer place for me. Because while there are parts of that gift that I have real strong, I really want you to grow. Like, I wouldn't have started this podcast if I didn't want you to grow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't teach Bible study if I didn't want you to grow. There's a lot of stuff I want you to grow. But that whole, I told you not to do that. And then you came back to me with wanting advice. And I told you what not to do.
Now, I ain't gonna lie. I struggle with that too, because I'm only gonna give you the same advice a few times. Now, I'm just gonna put it out there. Baby, my god sister be having me so stressed out. I told Amaya. Now, and honestly, that was just who popped up on my mind first. But I tell all my friends, okay, come on. Like, I'm like, I ain't got nothing to say because I already told you last time it's gonna be the same thing. So, do you want me to listen, or are you wanting a lecture?
Yeah.
Because I'm about to lecture you.
Yeah. But like, I'm growing through that place. But what I realize is my evangelism gift isn't a gift I can teach. I'm a really decent mentor. But like, where people just walk up to random people on the street,
oh no,
and share the gospel,
that ain't my strong suit either.
I have problems walking up to people at networking events, and that's why we're there.
I got a problem walking up to people I know. like, I'm like Summer Walker. I got social anxiety.
Right. And so, while I can share the gospel, and I know the gospel story, and I know the Roman road to salvation, I am not the person that's on the side of the road with signs.
Yes.
I'm also not the person that's holding rallies talking about, let's nail our sins to the cross. But I'm wise enough to know that that's needed.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to be on the side of Lakeshore telling people they're going to hell.
I ain't seen that man over there in a minute.
You haven't?
With that band and just be hollering.
Yeah, he got his sound system. I don't necessarily think that method is great, but maybe he got somebody saved. I don't know.
I hope so.
I don't know. But what I also know is, like, pastor teacher is needed. Like, we really need a covering desperately. And I think it is dangerous to have a prophet, not to pick on the prophet, but it's really dangerous to have the prophet and not have the pastor, because the prophet will beat you up and make you so low. Who builds you back up?
Yes. Who pours into you? And then they're going to say it's out of love. Yeah. It might be, but I think one thing I want us as Christians to get more accustomed to is being responsible for the impact of what we say. See, Cole, now we kind of had a conversation about. Oh Lord! See, me and Cole. Sorry, that car scared the mess out of me. See, me and Cole had the conversation about that. I am of the belief of impact versus intent. You're still responsible. Like, your intent may have been in the right place, but you're still responsible for how it impacted somebody, because your message can be, your message cannot be as powerful as it could be because you did not deliver it the right way. And while you may be speaking the truth, and I think I am more cognizant of this because, if y'all can't tell, I grew up with a big personality, a loud mouth, and I feel like I have a heart of gold. And a lot of the times I would say stuff and I would do stuff that I'm meaning well by it, but somebody may perceive it in the wrong way. Like they say, help is only help if it's perceived as help. So I do think we are responsible for the way our words land.
I agree, but I disagree.
Okay.
Like, I think it is.
Talk to me.
I think it's important.
And talk to me. Don't lie to me. Sorry, I just had to say. Y'all, this coffee got me hyped. Where do I see the caffeine? They know I've been scrolling this bottle like this trying to find it.
I don't know. It's a triple shot.
Oh my God, I found it.
I never bought the regular kind. I only bought the
150,
shot.
Is it milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah.
How many cups of coffee is that?
I don't know. It's a lot. It's probably 3. As he keeps drinking.
It's good. It kind of got me jittery.
Yeah, it's a good coffee now. I'm not even going
to. It's smooth.
Yeah, it's so smooth.
Oh, and it ain't got no. It got some sugar in it.
But I'm sorry. I agree, and I disagree. I think it is important. The Bible talks about seasoning your words with salt. Like, I really do think it's important that I'm cognizant of how I say it, but I also can't manage your trauma. And so there are some things that it doesn't matter. And recently I've had instances where I said one thing and the other person heard something completely different, but it came out of trauma that they had going on in their life. And so while I'm responsible to make sure that I say it in a delicate way and in a way, I'm not always going to be politically correct, but say it in a way that is not malicious. I can't control what glasses you wear and what hearing aids you wear.
See, I hear that, but to me, that feels like being insensitive to the other person. Like, yes, you can't control anybody else's trauma, but at the end of the day, like, your message is going to be lost, whether it was because of their trauma or what. So I feel like and I'm not saying that you're not a responsible leader, but I feel like as a responsible leader, yes, sometimes people react out of their trauma, but you're still responsible for being like, we keep talking about being in community. I'm not going to push somebody out of community because my words stung them. I'm going to work with them through that trauma. And I think that's why it's important to be in community of the like-minded people, because then you can understand their trauma. So that way you can alter your words. So like for me, you can't talk to me about my weight, baby. And yes, I might react if you like, oh, you done ate that? Yes, I might pop off. But it's also like, if I'm talking to somebody that was once bigger, they're going to be like, oh, okay. I'm trying to think. I don't think it's no kind of cute way of telling somebody you eat too much. So that was a bad example. But like, I understand what you're saying about like, you aren't responsible for their trauma. But at the same time, okay, yeah. But I feel like it's the same thing though.
Yeah. But I can't.
Yeah, no, yeah, but you can't. But I don't know, that for me, hearing that makes me feel like that's like the easy way out of accountability.
Well, no, I want to keep having this conversation because I think this is gonna be controversial. I'm gonna have to take it on the chin. I think it's the thing that's wrong with our generation now. Like, I think that the generations before us were too blunt, and they were too raw. I think our generation is too soft, and we need to meet somewhere in the middle where I realize that you don't mean to hurt me. I see where you're trying to say it nicer, but at the same time, I realize you're not trying to hurt me, and I'm actively not trying to hurt me. I actively not trying to hurt you, but also I realize that I've got to work through my issues. Like, I'm trying to find a nice way to say this. If nobody can ever speak the truth to you, because sometimes the truth is going to hurt.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And sometimes the truth, and sometimes the truth, just like alcohol cleans out a sore after you got dirt in it. If somebody doesn't come and clean the dirt out of you, you're gonna get an infection. And if nobody cleans that, gets some Neosporin and some antibiotics, that infection is gonna get worse. Before you know it, it's gonna stink. Before you know it, you might have to get an amputation and you might die. And so if the alcohol or the peroxide never hits that sore, there's sometimes that what people say to you, because it's trauma, it's always gonna hurt. But realizing, are they putting dirt in the sore, or are they putting alcohol in the sore?
Yeah.
Because both were not going to feel pleasant.
Yeah. But I feel like you get there from a place of spiritual maturity, of being able to accept that. So with the basis of the podcast of people that are leaving the church, I think it's kind of irresponsible to say like, I'm not responsible to manage your trauma, when like a lot, like, I feel like everything really goes back to just being in community with people. Because I think if we're in community, yes, you aren't responsible for managing my trauma, but you can understand me and my triggers, so that way you know how to phrase what you're saying to me. So like,
I agree with that.
So like, if I may need to hear you're eating too much, but as my brother, you know how to tell me that, versus somebody random.
No, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying that you have to walk on eggshells
Yeah.
around people and not tell them the truth, but it is a certain way that you deliver the truth that can either make or break them receiving it or not. And I would rather work through some of that stuff to get them to a place to where they can receive it versus pushing them out further.
No, I agree with that.
I have 2 examples in my head, and I don't know if I should share them because they're both 2 good friends of mine.
Okay.
But
use discernment.
I'm not gonna share. But Lord, now them the only 2 examples that's on my head. Okay, I'll give a brief thing. But so, for example, my friend Sydney and I, we've been having some almost difficult conversations because it's a sensitive topic. Me being in relationship with her, even though when we first had the conversation, I was not it wasn't I was talking to her about something that was a sensitive spot for her, so she was not able to receive it from me the way I delivered it the first time. And like you said, because of her traumas, the way she reacted wasn't a way that she received it. But because I'm in community, I was able to work through some of that over some weeks, and we were able to have a conversation to where today we actually had a really good conversation about that particular topic. Versus another friend that I have, we had a conversation about something, and I think I took the approach that you're saying of like, well, girls, it's rather alcohol than dirt. And I think that closed off that friend from receiving anything from me and or our friend group in that area, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I just feel like
I think you're missing what I'm saying, because I agree with you.
Oh, Cole, you know, it's my trigger now.
What?
You missing what I'm just you know, for real? That's why I blew up on an American airline man. Really? American airline man. He said to you? He was like, I don't think you understand.
No. I was saying I agree with you.
No. Yeah. Y'all, see, that's my humor. I was joking about. Sorry. Honestly, I'm recognizing. I think it's sick. I almost get more weak to make people uncomfortable. Not like that, but like my humor is kind of like dark and dry and sarcastic. So a lot of times I'm saying something that I think is funny that may make you be like, yeah. So that was all. I apologize.
No, you're good. Well, no, I agree with that. What I don't agree with.
Oh, that was good.
Is being in relationship with people and you can never tell them the truth.
Oh,
because of trauma, because they're unwilling to work past it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so when I say that I can't manage your trauma, I'm not saying that I'm not willing to change the way that I say it. I'm not saying that I'm not willing to work with you. I'm not saying that I'm not willing to go around it. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, truth is truth. And if I see you building up an infection, at some point somebody got to be the big brave person and be like, hey, we got to clean that out.
Yeah.
And this is about to burn.
Yeah, okay. And I received that. I just think when you said the way that you said it at first, it was just so like blunt, black and white. I think the explanation was needed so that people can understand, like, okay, being in community, because what I think us having a platform and speaking about certain topics, we do have to be a little more intentional about how people perceive it, because I don't want there to be lore, especially in this political climate. I don't want it to be like, I think people hear one thing and they go to the extreme. So that's why I feel like the conversation of explaining it and going deeper is important, because I need you to understand me fully, because I don't want you lying on me saying AJ told you to rip off, because AJ also told you intent versus impact. You're responsible for both.
But I also think, you know, and I think with this platform, I think it is also our duty to be clear.
Yes.
And so I think where you'll sometimes I may have to take things on the chin, that I would rather be clear and and you not walk away thinking that I said something else. Because I feel like whenever I try to sugarcoat something, somebody walk around away with the wrong. And I'm like, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
And so every now and then, I think it is, and maybe that's just what I've had to learn. It's better for me to be clear.
Yeah.
You know, I know that you may have noticed that whenever you tell me about what you were thinking, I say, well, did you say that? Because I don't like people to lead the conversation thinking, you know, I want to make sure we all on the same page when we walk out of this room.
But you know, from my background, I was too clear. I used to be too clear. So I think that's why I'm more conscious of the intent. Going back to another episode, I don't know if I talked about it on the podcast or not, but my granddad, when he would drop me off for school.
Yeah, you talked about it.
Yeah, it would be, think before you speak because your mouth gonna make people hate you.
Yeah.
I used to just
go off.
And I would keep it clear like, ooh, your shoes ugly. I don't like your hair. Your butt lopsided. You need to stop eating.
Yeah.
Why you eating that? You look a mess. So that's why I think
you're over. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I have had to dial it back. So I am a lot more, I guess I'm a lot more aware of small nuances of stuff. And also, I'm going to be for real. I'm sensitive. I'm able to admit that. I think I have a hard exterior, but I'm sensitive. So any little thing might make me feel some kind of way. So being sensitive, being overly straightforward, I've just learned, or I've recognized the impact of stuff, and I just try not to inflict people with the same trauma.
I did that. I did that. Okay, let's go back to our topic.
Sorry. We had some good conversation.
Yeah, real good.
OMG, this is the first time I think we ever had to like have conflict on camera.
But I think that
it wasn't conflict though.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. We just didn't agree at all.
Yeah. You see, when you have an out with your brother, you talk to them first. We ain't need to go get no community.
Well, we got a whole bunch of witnesses.
Yeah. Lord, we skipped a step there.
Well, it's just us in the room.
Right.
In a few weeks. So, but like with that, like you'll have prophets who are more about what they say. They're overly clear because they don't want you to misconstrue what's said. And there's no shepherd to come and be like, "Oh, come here, baby."
Yeah.
Let me come on. I know. You know, we're gonna come out of that now. You know, because the pastor's like, "We're gonna come out of that." But
look, they was right. Yeah.
But come on.
They was wrong.
And while the prophet says you need to come out, the pastor says, "Come on, let me show you."
Yes.
And so you got the person who shake you up out of it, wakes you up because you couldn't see that you were
and threw water on you.
Right. But then you have the pastor that's back there that's like, okay, whoa, come on. Let me show you. I'm going to walk you through the steps. Let me show you how to come out of this thing. And I think we're calling prophets pastors. And then we got a void of pastors because now we have, we have pulpiteers or people who can take platform, calling them pastors, and who's taking care of the people. And I think that's the whole reason why I got this podcast. Because I'm worried about the people.
Yes.
Like, who is taking care of the people? Because, like, I don't feel like there should be a reason for us to have a podcast talking about what the church won't talk about if there was somebody taking care of the people.
Right.
You know, I think we got a lot of people who are out here mad at church. And really, you just needed a pastor. Not a title. But you needed somebody who was going to love you, care for you, and then show you.
Yeah, walk through life with you.
How to move. But then there's the other thing, and I saw this a couple of years ago. Somebody posted this. They said, don't be confused when pastors lead versus when the apostolic lead. So you have apostles. You know what an apostle is?
Apostle. Yes, but like the definition's fuzzy.
So, you know, in the New Testament, the disciples become apostles. Disciple is follower. Apostle is representative. In the church context, and I really don't think
definition of that.
I don't think we operate in the office correctly. But in the church context, you usually have an apostle who plants churches. And so, like, they're a church planner. Well, a church planner is more concerned with strategy. But so we'll have somebody operating as a church planner. They're strategic, you know, about how to get people in the room and how to get how to structure the church and all that stuff. But the apostle is not always focused on the tending of the souls of the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to have a strategist, have somebody who can operate in that office. But I also don't think that we should put the mantle on them to care for the sheep, because usually the apostle moves on after a few years.
Yeah.
And they may come back and visit. Even in the text, that's what we see. They go, they establish the church, and they come back and they check on the church, but they're not really there for the day-to-day. Let me walk through this with you.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was going to say the definition of the apostle from the Merriam-Webster is one sent on a mission, and then it's also a person who initiates a great moral reform or who first advocates an important belief or system.
So
yeah. So like the person that
church
started,
yeah.
I was just supporting you. Sorry.
Oh yeah. But they, they're. So I think we can't put that weight on them.
Yeah.
But can you imagine if we had strategists in one house, people who could win souls in one house, people who could see in the heavenlies in one house, people who tend the souls in one house, somebody who can teach dynamically the word in one house, and all those gifts working together. What would happen in any city if that got in one house?
For one, that would be the biggest church in the city.
I'm sure of it.
Lord. But would it be though? Because I think people are attracted to, I think people have an idea of church. And I think that's why you have churches that blow up and then fall off.
But I think what we're talking about tonight is why they blow up and they fall off.
Yes. Because it's not the full fivefold. Yeah.
I think sustained growth, because I think one of the other scary things to me is you have a church that grows, and then the lead pastor retires, and the church almost dies, and because everybody's attracted to that one personality. But if the whole fivefold plus the other gifts,
yes,
like let's not forget hospitality, because that's a spiritual gift. Let's not forget music. God, let's not forget music. Let's not forget giving, because giving is a spiritual gift. Let's not forget that, all the other spiritual gifts. If all of them operated in one house and nobody competed because we knew what we were assigned to do, what would happen?
God would get his full glory.
I think we would see what they were trying to do at the Tower of Babel, but for the glory of God.
What were they trying to do? Let's refresh them.
So in Genesis, Nimrod, who was one of Noah's grandsons, was the first world dictator.
Okay.
And he called together all the people of the earth. He said, let's build a tower in defiance of God. We're going to get, yeah. And we're going to try to get to heaven with this tower. And so they was building this tower.
Crazy fool.
Right. They building this tower. So much so, it was so many people united to build this tower that God got up off his throne and came down to earth. And God was like, if they would be unified like this, they can accomplish anything. Let me scatter the languages so they can't communicate. And they scatter the languages. Next chapter is literally the Table of Nations. And if you study it out, and I'm about to geek out for a second, you study it out, you can see where almost all the countries, the old country, you can see where Germany comes from, Armenia comes from, you can see where all the African countries come from. Like, literally, you can start seeing the etymology of where they all start. If you study it, you'll see where all these different families and stuff, how their languages got scattered and they became people groups. Like, Table of Nations, Genesis chapter 10. Like, it's wild.
You said Genesis chapter 10.
Now you got to study it, because you have to find out what each name means. But the house of Togarmah is literally Togarmah is one of the places. Armenia still calls themselves the house of Togarmah. You can, if you read it, you'll find out where. If you study it, you're not gonna find it in the text. You got to study it. You'll find out where Germany came from. You'll find out where a lot of the African countries come from. You'll see where all these old ancient countries. You'll see where the Egyptians came from. Like all these old countries, you see how they got their languages, how they got scattered, all that stuff.
So real quick, what was the originating country?
Well, life started in the middle, like top Africa, Middle East.
Okay.
Okay,
I just want.
But they all got scattered.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy. Okay, so I'm going to geek out a little bit too because, I really like conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
I've been seeing a lot of stuff. What blows my mind
Mm-hmm.
is the, what's the right word? The just detail and the grandeur
Mm-hmm.
of the old structures.
By hand.
They say that, like, basically, in lack of a better word, said like the fallen angels gave them that knowledge, and that's how they was able to figure out how to do all this stuff. Because, like, it don't make sense for y'all to be back then making stuff that still stands today. But then there's another conspiracy. Now this is completely off topic. You can stop me if I need to.
Keep going.
There's another conspiracy where, like, all of this stuff was built before the Great Flood, and, like, the leftover stuff is like the broken pieces of what was before. And they said, like, the time before the Great Flood, like, stuff was just like
ornate
10 times just more grand than what it is now. So yeah,
I mean, it's possible. I'm not. I
yeah.
don't have an opinion either way.
And they say, like, we were.
Who is they?
TikTok. Multiple sources. I'm playing telephone, and they said, child. Mm-hmm. No, but and then they also say, like, and I don't know, I haven't backed it up, but like that we were all connected on land, and then
Pangea.
Yeah, and then, like, the water from the Great Flood is what broke us up.
Well, now this is not what we're supposed to be talking about, but there is a lot of theories around the ages of people, because like right before the flood, Noah's grandfather was Methuselah. Methuselah was the longest living man, like 900 some years he lived. And Methuselah literally means when he dies, it shall come. And his birth was a prophecy that God was going to wreck the earth. And Methuselah, the year Methuselah dies, the very next year, he flooded the earth. And so his birth was a prophecy. But I think it's, regardless of what happened, regardless of what went down, I'm bringing us back.
Hold up, really quickly before you bring us all the way back. That makes sense, though, why they was able to go here, because it wasn't the same earth that it is now.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. There's a lot of theories that Methuselah lived a long time, and that when the rain fell, because it had never rained before, they only had well springs from the ground, and when it rained, that was the first time that was the first time that people began to age, and that's why we only live, because he makes the declaration that my spirit won't strive with man any longer, and then like the max age becomes 120.
Yeah, we started dying off real bad.
And so Noah lived at like 600 or something like that. But like he says, my spirit's not gonna strive with men anymore. Max age becomes 120, and then all of a sudden, like the things that happen in Earth, which would then prove the theory, and we're about to go apologetics. Which then would prove the theory that when people talk about the Earth is 1 million years old, that the Earth is not 1 million years old, but that when the vapor barrier comes down and it rains, that the way that things ages changes. And so where we could look at archaeology and say that's 1 million years old, everything in the environment changes, so it looks like it's older than it is, because the elements changed that it lived in. So the preservation makes it look like it's so much older. Those are theories that I have studied. They're not proven because I wasn't there.
Right. But it's all alleged.
Yeah. So, but when I have studied,
we need an allegedly sign.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But when I have studied to teach in Genesis, those are some things that I did come across. But
can we talk about this offline? Because I'm like so intrigued.
I'm wondering if our followers are intrigued. Maybe they're clicking off. Who knows?
Y'all let us know.
Yeah.
Because Cole taught like was it like 30 weeks?
It was a long time.
It was a very long. And what's crazy, when I forgot to say this on the episode, but when I introduced Cole and my uncle Stefan, they recognized that they were teaching the same thing at the exact same time. Yeah. So that was funny. So like I low-key feel like Cole is like my spiritual cousin, because like I low-key feel like my uncle is like his like spiritual daddy that he had never met, but he finally met him. So like small tangent, yeah. But But yeah, if y'all want to know about that, I would love to sit and listen and watch Cole tell y'all about it because I'm gonna be listening to.
Oh my God. But in
all that to say,
yeah, all of that. And maybe we do some clips on apologetics or something. Like, I don't know if it needs to be a whole hour, but we could definitely do some topics. But bringing it all the way back full circle, I think.
So one more thing, when you said that, I just thought about SpongeBob. He was like, "Bring it around town." Okay, sorry. Y'all, it's that coffee. I'm like on one.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool because we got stuff to do tonight.
Yeah.
But back to where we were. Lord. But bringing it back. We're talking about the Fivefold ministry.
Yes.
I really believe this, that if we would put ego aside and we would put our disagreements aside, I think one of the things that irritates me the most is that churches will split over small things.
Yes.
Like currently praying right now because people have agendas. And I think that we bring our agendas into the church place and we would never admit it, but we have agendas and things that we want to see, and we have this sense of ownership in the house of God. And I think having a sense of ownership as in pride, like I'm going to clean up and I'm going to contribute, is important. But at the same time, I think we have to remember this is God's house. And so just because I got upset with my brother or my sister and I didn't agree with my brother and sister said does not mean that I get to do what I want to do and I go start my own house. Right. Like, if I can just be ugly honest, I don't think that there is a reason for a church to have 3 members and those 3 members rode with you. You need to take your gift somewhere and become a part of something. Yeah. And I was talking to one of my mentors, Reverend Nolan, and I was talking about a lot of the smaller churches that used to be around our church when we were on the airport. And I was like, I don't understand why we just can't merge. Like, we're always inviting each other to the same programs. We do the same stuff over and over again. All y'all hang out. Let's just be one. Why are we 6 different churches? And 3 of us split from the same church to begin with because y'all got mad.
Because people want titles.
And I'm going to just be honest. Like, I'm finna air it out because I don't understand a church split. I'm going to be real with y'all. Unless somebody is teaching heresy and they talking about we going to bow to Satan or Lucifer, y'all need to get back together. I don't care how long you've been split. You need to go back together. You need to repent first. Go back together and be what God called you to be, because what I know is God puts what you need in the house. And if I take my gifts as if they're my gifts, I know I'm getting upset. Calm down. If I take my gifts away, I may be angry, but who am I hurting? And what baby in Christ am I aborting because my gifts were not in the house? And it really annoys me when people think that they can just take their ball and go home as if it's their house. This is God's house. And so when I look at churches that are like, you ain't nobody coming. Why are we doing this? So I can have a title?
And you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Who does that serve? When I can take the little ministry that we do well, because usually they got one part thing they do really well, and I can come and attach it
and
over
add
here.
It to something else that they do well.
They do really well.
Like, so my pastor said something whenever members are joining. He said something along the lines of like, we'll take your gifts and blend them with our gifts and use them to glorify God. If people would just take your talents, blend them with my talents, and together, we can really do something for God.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going at. I was talking to Reverend Nolan, and Reverend Nolan said that his dad and all the others would be rolling in their graves. And they'd be rolling their graves because you lose the history.
And they worked so hard for
it. And that's the thing that I have to remember a lot, especially because I go to, like you do too. I go to an established church. I don't go to a church plant. I don't go to a church that's celebrating 20 years, celebrating 10 years. I go to a church that next year will celebrate 80 years in existence.
Mine, I think it's going to be like 120 something.
Right. Like, go to a church, it ain't no baby. What I realize is that a lot of times we demonize our deacons, our trustees, and our older leadership because they don't want to release the reins. And I still think y'all should. I do.
Or at least loosen them.
But what I really hope is that you will walk alongside somebody who has the ability to run.
Yes.
And share your wisdom and pour all your wisdom, because I look around, there's so much wisdom in our church that has gone to the grave for fear that somebody was going to take over. And that's sad, right? I realize that there are people with agendas, because we're talking about people with agendas. Yeah. But I also feel like for the life of the church, it's in Nehemiah. I think it's in Nehemiah. Let me back that up. It's either Nehemiah or Zechariah. I could be wrong. But they're getting ready to build a temple.
It's one of the
They're about to build the second temple. So
okay.
if I'm quoting it wrong, Bible scholar, somebody quote. They're getting ready to build the second temple. And when they're getting ready to build the second temple, all the old men and the young men are there. They're laying the foundation. And when they get ready to lay the foundation, there's a big shout. The young men shout with exuberance and excitement. The old men weep. Because this is not as beautiful and it's not as grand as the last temple. The young men shout because they've never seen the temple ever. And the idea that we're doing something for God is amazing. But the old men weep because we could do better. We had better. And we could and so I think if the old does not communicate with the new to share the wisdom, we will always get excited over a lesser offering to God. But if the two communicate, maybe we can do something even better. Even better. Yeah. And so when I think about it, I really, the reason other than the Lord told me to be here, but the reason in my logic that I haven't left is because I want to see the glory of old mixed with the glory of new. Because I believe there's wisdom in what happened, but I believe there's glory in what's coming. Yeah. And if I only grab the glory of now, I miss the history, the foundation, and the surety of what was. And it's just like and I'm about to stop talking, but it's just like the Old Testament and the New Testament. Any church that only teaches from the New Testament is missing the gospel. Yeah. Any church that any faith group that's only teaching the Old Testament is missing the gospel. When I read the gospel in the context of the old and I see the Old Testament in light of the New Testament, it shows me the glory of God. It shows me the glory of the Godhead. Because if I only see Jesus, I miss Yahweh in all his splendor and his majesty and the Holy Spirit and all of his guidance. If I grab onto the Holy Spirit, but I don't respect Yahweh, I miss the foundation, the one who speaks and was and is worthy of all praise. I miss the totality of this thing.
Cole, I'm sorry.
What?
You just eat me up. I'm just over here just.
Why am I trying to eat you up?
No, like not bad. Okay. I just think I've been very transparent about this on this platform. I have been considering leaving my church, but I just keep hearing like, do not get weary in well doing. Yeah. And I think that one thing that our generation does that I'm guilty of, we don't really commit like we should. As we're sitting right here talking about church splits, this is how the church starts to split. Yeah. You don't show up like you should. You don't do your part. And then you're wondering why the church is like it is. Yeah. But it's like, you have to be there long enough. And for them to trust you with it. And especially as we talk about older people not wanting to give up their reins. Young people, this is our time to show them and to be there so that they can know they can trust us to give us a rein and walk alongside us. So sometimes they are just wanting to see us be consistent, be committed, so that they know that they aren't going to give it up to the wrong person.
And this is what I know. I know that there are a lot of older people that in time, I could think of some now who are still threatened by me, but in seasons have been worried or threatened by me or are afraid. And I have always said this, and I will continue to say this. I think church works best when you got a 30-year-old Cole and a 70, 80-year-old somebody telling me, giving me wisdom. Now, don't fuss at me when I make mistakes.
It's way up.
You know, and I'm going to just tell the truth. My daddy watched. I'm going to tell. I've been struggling with that. Y'all, everybody knows I messed that pool up.
Oh, you messed the pool up?
Oh, Jesus.
Man.
Everybody knows I messed.
Okay.
Everybody knows I messed the pool up. I said it was gonna take 2 weeks. It took 2 years. Like everybody knows.
Yeah,
It's not a secret.
Look, I did notice that, but I just supported you anyway. I'm like, we gonna be in the next summer.
Everybody knows. Nobody knows that I messed up the pool more than me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah.
I know I messed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes older people can't help but to tell you, but that drives younger people to want to not be here. Like, I know a lot of times I err on the side of the old people, but let me be clear. That makes a me who has a lot of stay power. Like I got a lot of endurance. Want to be like, forget this. I ain't gotta do this. I gotta take this. But I want to encourage us. We need more than ever the wisdom of the seniors. And I may admonish us seniors. Y'all say I ain't us. Y'all seniors. We need your wisdom, but talk to us the way you want it to be talked to.
Yes.
Talk to us the way that you needed wisdom back in the day, and nobody would give it to you. And they told you, don't ask questions, and you wish somebody would have told you. Talk to us that way. Talk to us as if you were the 30-year-old that wished they had the advice.
Yeah, be the change you want to see in the world.
Because a lot of us don't have the callous skin that y'all had then. And a lot of like boomers in the silent generation, when they got mad in church, they didn't necessarily leave. Some of them split. Because our church has gone through a couple splits. Some of them split. But most of them just stopped paying their tithes. They kept coming. Us, forget the tithes. I'm taking my tithes, my gifts, my time, my talent. I'm out this piece. Evidence.
Deuces.
About where's generation? Where's the millennials? Where's Gen Z?
Wow. We done had a few revelations today.
Yeah, a few.
But listen, y'all, we just want y'all to get back in church.
Yeah.
It don't gotta be the church to hurt you.
No.
Well, I gotta say my part first. That's the episode. But we have had some really good conversations today. And Cole, I'm glad that we had this conversation. I have gotten like some divine revelation. And after my busy season, I'm getting back committed.
All right.
I'm going to go to choir rehearsal this Thursday.
Okay. Look at the Lord.
I'm going to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But listen, that's all, folks. We want you to find a church. It don't got to be the church to hurt you, but it needs to be a Bible believing, Bible teaching, Bible living out right church. It could be big, small. Oh, it don't got to be big. It don't got to be small. It don't got to be schmedium. It can be though.
Yeah.
But just find a church that, I don't want to say works for you because that sounds crazy. And
if it works for you, that means that you might be removing stuff that ain't fair.
Yeah. But like, find your church. Yeah. There is a pastor for you. There is a community for you. And just find it.
That's what I was about to add that. I know we don't add it. Find a pastor you trust.
Yes. Because if they are going to be the shepherd of your life, you have to be able to trust them with your life. Yeah. And if you find
soul.
Your soul. And if you can't trust them, then that's probably not the place you need to be.
And look. And I know this. A lot of us spend a whole lot of time trying to see how many goosebumps we can get and how good the shouting is and how hot it get in the service. Find somebody that cares about you.
Yeah.
And look, if you go somewhere and that preacher don't care nothing about your soul, you don't need to be there. I don't care how popular that church is.
At all.
I love y'all with the love of the Lord. Y'all be blessed.
Y'all be blessed.